I'm at my place we call Delta Bluffs, a very special place up here in the Mississippi Delta for good reason. It's that time of the year in Mississippi. Welcome to the Thanksgiving edition of Super Talk Outdoors, where we celebrate every single Monday at lunchtime the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi. And as I always do, I thank my friend Steve Azar, the music and cultural ambassador for the state of Mississippi, and the host of In a Mississippi Minute here on Super Talk for that amazing song, One Mississippi, the theme song for Super Talk Outdoors. I want to thank you for joining us today on the powerful Super Talk Mississippi network. If you're listening on Facebook or YouTube or your favorite podcast, it's November the 22nd, 2021. Wow, it is that time of year. The redfish and the specks are biting on the coast. It's really getting good down there. And hunting is happening all across the state of Mississippi. And as you know, I say this every single Monday, Mississippi is becoming the capital of the outdoors for the great state of the great United States. What a special time of the year it is. Hey, listen, we're going to jump right into it today. I want to go straight into the woods with my friend Will Primos, the one and only, the star of one of the true first reality TV shows, Primos: The Truth About Hunting, and the founder of Primos Outdoors. How you doing? And welcome to the Thanksgiving edition of Super Talk Outdoors, Will.
I'm telling you, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much. Can you believe there's so much to do in Mississippi right now? I mean, what do? You go bass fishing, you go crappie fishing, you go red fishing, you go speckled trout fishing, you go deer hunting. Do you go get your duck blind ready for what's coming up? I mean, there's just so much going on.
There really is. And what I love the fact that you and I are going to spend some time together today, because it's not just about the hunting. As I mentioned, me being from the coast and living on Back Bay, I don't think that, if people listen to Coast View, they heard our visit down on the coast about this, but the statewide audience may not have heard our conversation about this. But you had many opportunities to grow up and see the beautiful Back Bay, and it's in your blood, heart, and soul. So I live there. I have a place in the Delta. You've obviously hunted all over this state, but you got salt water in your veins early in your life, didn't you?
I really did. I mean, as a kid, going to camp, be it fishing camp, hunting camp, just, oh my gosh, for any family who doesn't have a place to go, gosh, tap into some of the parks we have and get your kids out there. And I mean, they're going to love it.
They're going to love it. Look, I pulled one quote that I had shared with the audience, the Coast View audience, when you visited with me on Coast View, and we talked so much about what South Mississippi and coastal Mississippi means to you. But I was watching a video that you did, and it might have been Mossy Oaks or one of the really good videos that I saw that was about your life and your passion in life. And what you said on that video, I actually wrote the words down because I think it kind of captures the essence of this, not just where you come from, but also this time of year, Thanksgiving. And here's what you said: the outdoors industry gives me a living, but it's deeper than that. I'm going into the woods by myself and pray and think about my relationship with God and family. Thank God for his grace and love and forgiveness. I get that at church, but this is an extension to that. It's so deep-seated. I don't have to pull the trigger, release the arrow, or catch the fish. It's the experience. That's so true, isn't it?
It is. It's life. If you ever know it, your life's not complete without it.
Yeah. So what does this time of year mean to you, Will?
I don't know. I think sometimes it equals the spring, and sometimes I think the spring is even more. I'm more fond of the spring, but I think they're probably equal. But the leaves falling, the leaves turning, things beginning to take shape, life beginning to be renewed, with all the mating rituals from the whitetails, and then seeing the ducks migration and seeing them come from up north down here. The doves get fat and bigger. There's less humidity some days. I don't know. There's so much to be thankful for. I guess it makes me feel closer to the Lord, and thank him for his creation. It's just a renewed feeling, just like the spring.
Yeah, you describe my love as well, and I often say on this show that for people who think it's only about the hunting, in other words, the shooting or the catching, they're missing the whole point. You know, when you and I visited before the show started with my friend Jake Carter, whose father's not a hunter. He loves to be out and about, but he's not a hunter or a fisherman. And so Jake hunts and fishes with me. And as an extension of that, now he has daughters, and they came to visit me as well. But to be able to see it through their eyes and to experience it with them, and for them to notice the things that we in our older age are noticing, and for them to appreciate it, to see it through their eyes, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Look, you can start living your life all over again and feel young again being around those youngsters.
That's for sure. Hey, listen, of course, I say that you're sort of one of the first true reality TV shows because of your Primos Truth About Hunting TV show. And of course, Primos Hunting is a brand that's internationally known. When I refer to you as an outdoor ambassador for Mississippi, Mississippi's most important outdoor ambassador, do you feel that responsibility?
You know, I never wanted that responsibility. I never asked for it, just because of what I did for a living and the people that I was lucky enough to be surrounded with. It's come with the territory in some respects, but when people call me because they want some insight, they want some advice, they want to hear what I think about something to do with the outdoors. At first, I would be like, why are you calling me? You know, but I've learned to appreciate and value that and humbled by it. But I've also got to be very careful because I guess it's kind of like the doctor, do no harm. You know, you want to be a compliment. You want to bring it forward, not go backwards.
Yeah, I agree completely. I agree. And if we have time, we'll talk more about the Conservation Trust Fund toward the end of the show if we have time. But what I'll say about that now, though, is simply that having the opportunity to work with you on that and something that could be transformative for our state. What's interesting to me is how people sort of lean towards you for that advice and counsel, and for you to sort of embrace this literally transformational legislation that could be for our state. You find out that in moments like that, that's when your leadership really matters. That's when you can really make a difference. And being an outdoor ambassador when you're outside the state is really important, but being able to be that ambassador on issues that are important to the state inside the state, I know you pick those issues very carefully, but when you pick it, you're passionate about it, aren't you?
Oh, no doubt. You've got to understand it. So when I first became aware of the efforts by the legislature and began to learn about it, the first step was to go to the people who knew the most to get the right information so I could read and study and understand. And then go, once I started finding out about the other states that had done it, go and read what they've done and how they did it and what benefits have come from it. And then you can really get behind it.
Yeah, I see. I see your passion, and I think Katie bar the door when you get involved in an issue because you're so passionate and you do your homework and you can speak to the details. You do understand what. Yeah.
One of the things when you get involved in this type of issue, I use that word. Because for some that don't understand it or some that's against it, so you got to have somebody for and against something to call it an issue, because it's not an issue if you're all for it. So right now, a friend of mine, Coach Head from Tensall Parish, Louisiana, gave me the book Rising Tide many years ago, and I never read it. And recently, I was with some friends, and we were talking about recent books we had read, and I said, "Well, I just finished Alexander Hamilton." And he goes, "You ever read Rising Tide?" I said, "I got the book, but I've never started reading." He says, "Go right now. Promise me tomorrow you'll read the first couple of pages and you won't put it down." Oh, was he right? I don't know this author, but he wrote this book like a thriller. I think somebody might as well be getting killed or stabbed every 2 seconds because you're on pins and needles reading it. Bam, 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 bam. This is history. This is documentation. But where I'm going to with this is, the documenting and the study of the people who were part of the Mississippi River in the early days, from St. Louis on down, Mr. Eads and Mr. Humphreys, and the egos and the self-serving attitude and the grandiose, the fact they had to be on a pedestal, one of them, Humphreys especially. Oh my gosh. They make so many mistakes feeding their egos, and that's what we've got to stay away from. We've got to look at what matters. We've got to look at the decisions that are going to influence for the betterment of Mississippi. And if you get the egos out of the way and you get the who you are out of the way, you can open doors. I mean, I get very exasperated with that.
This is Super Talk Outdoors with Will Primos. To see you after this break.
It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
You're back.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. We have the one and only Will Primos on this special edition, Thanksgiving edition of Super Talk Outdoors. You know, when we went to break, we were talking about sort of how Rising Tides, the book, affected you as you look at the complexities of issues surrounding the Mississippi River and flood control and the egos that were involved in all of this. You know, one of the things is true, though, when you get this opportunity like you do to travel all over the United States, even the world for that matter, but especially in the United States, you get an understanding of sort of the competitive situation that Mississippi is up against. You know, Mississippi, we had some of the best natural resources. As I said, in my view, when you take saltwater fishing and freshwater fishing and combine it with this incredible turkey hunting and deer hunting and other bird hunting that we have, duck hunting, you know, it's the capital of the outdoors in the United States. But what you see in these other states is a reminder for us that we cannot take this for granted. We have to be always focused on putting generational conservation efforts in place that can not only help us preserve this for many generations to come, but also make us competitive with other states that you see the passion in these other states around conservation, and it impacts you, doesn't it?
Oh, no doubt. And if we had known a little more or been a little bit more careful with how we did certain things, there'd be certain parts of Mississippi that we could have conserved that would be better than they are today.
Yeah.
That's what we don't want to repeat.
So let's go. I want to go back to a little bit at the beginning. Your uncles Gus, Ellis, and Billy, they really impacted you at an early age. But man, you had love of the outdoors in your DNA from early on, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. All I wanted to do was fish and hunt. I mean, I'm talking about 4 and 5 years old.
Yeah. So it really, really impacted you. And you go back to the early days of Primos Hunting. When you finally had that first call, did you ever imagine in your life that you would be where you are today?
No, Lord have mercy. Or had gone where I'd gone to get here, no, or had ended up being willing to sacrifice some of the things that I did in life to be able to build a company like Primos. No, I wouldn't have believed it. But I'm going to tell you, one person did, and his name was Buck Dearman. And he's the one who had me make that first call. And he said to me, I'll never forget it. He said, Will, if you take this and you pay attention to it, you can end up going public. I went, no, I don't know about that. But little did I know that a publicly traded company would end up owning Primos.
Hey, what's interesting, in our Coast View session, we talked about how Primos came to be and the building of it and working with Jimmy and all of that. And of course, I had Jimmy and Brad on my show a few weeks ago. But Brad told a story that kind of hit me, and it reminded me of this point in the conversation when you and I were talking about how much determination that you put into making sure a call was perfect. Just the incredible attention to detail. But anyway, the story that Brad told, Brad Ferris, who has been with you for quite a long time, and by the way, just a super guy, I might add. I really enjoyed getting to know him. But he told me about how you guys met, that you would come in and you would want 2 bows set up perfectly, and it took so much time to serve you. He finally told you, Will, can you come back Sunday after church? Because the line was out the door. Because he was, tell me about where does that attention to detail come from, Will?
Well, when the moment comes, and you are a big whitetail is approaching your stand, you're fixing to get a shot. You don't need to be thinking about anything else. Everything needs to be on autopilot. And so, if there's any small detail that's not tended to, you're not going to be able to focus. You need to focus on where that air is going to exit, and not where it's going to enter, but where it's going to exit. And drawing the bow, everything coming in line, the peep coming in line with the sight, every little aspect of it. And if I had 2 bows and something happened, and I had that happen on a trip, so I started doing 2 bows to make sure I had them identical. But if they're different, then you got to handle them different. So I just the attention to detail. The attention to detail will take care of a lot of screw ups.
Well, the other thing that hit me from our last conversation is this whole notion of burning the midnight oil. When you're an entrepreneur, you literally have to be willing to give everything to your craft. It's not easy building a company. So not only do you have sort of the company thing to do, you got to build a company. You have to make it financially viable. There's all the efforts that you guys did in the early days to get distribution set up. But then at the core of this was these calls and this incredible attention to detail to find competitive advantage in developing that call. It took incredible determination, didn't it, to pull all that together?
It did. Mainly finding the right people. And you've got to go through some people that aren't the right people. I don't mean necessarily employees. I mean vendors, people that make tools for you. The tool being an injection mold that makes the parts. And not knowing anything about injection molding, you think you're hiring the right person, and the tool's not perfect. And the tool ends up making products that are one size one time and one size another. One day I finally found the right guy, and I said, I got a question. Why is it that I order a part and it's one size? And it might be 5,000 different the next time I order it, which causes all kind of problems. He says, well, they're not sending the same temperature of water through the mold to cool it every time, or they don't have any water on it. I said, would you go travel to one of my plants and look at my tools for me? He said, sure. If you can get that, they let me in the door. We did it. I ended up hiring him. He took every tool out of there. I had tools with no water. They were cooling them with a fan. In the winter, they cool a whole lot faster than they do in the summer. So that's why my parts were different. So I had duck calls that wouldn't go together right. And I'm going, why? So we got it all straight finally, but you got to go through all that to find the right people. I probably told this to you the first time we talked, but you got to surround yourself with people who want you to win. People who aren't going to take advantage of you and try to make a little more money for themselves and screw you in the process. You got to surround yourself with people who want you to win, be it employees, be it vendors, be it whoever.
Yeah, the other thing that stood out to me from our conversation is you mentioned The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell and the whole notion of being willing to put 10,000 hours into something. You don't wing it. You don't wing it when you do what you did. You don't find the success that you found in Primos Hunting, winging it. You had to literally give everything you got in every aspect of what you did, didn't you?
You had to go to work in the literal sense of the word. I had a guy come to me one time. He was working for me. He came and he sat down. He said, I'm going to quit. I said, okay. He said, I have found a golden parachute. I looked at him and I said, there are no golden parachutes. They don't exist.
Yeah. But, what I love about having the opportunity to speak to you is that, people from all over the state are listening to this. People who work in factories, people who own companies, people who aspire to do different things in their lives. And always behind someone, like here you are, someone who just has a deep love of the outdoors, who's an ambassador for the outdoors, who has it in your soul to want to take it all in and find ways for others to be able to enjoy it. You've made a business out of it. But behind people like you are so many incredible lessons about success, about leadership, about taking risks. Recognizing that everyone has the potential to do it, whatever they decide they want to do. They just have to decide to do it. So think about this wide range of people who are listening to this show today. And on the other side, in the next section, we'll tell some interesting stories, some fun stories about what you guys are up to these days. But what's your one or two best pieces of advice for someone?
Probably the biggest piece of advice I can give somebody is to truly understand discipline. The definition of discipline is giving up what I want today for what I really want tomorrow. That could be anything. That could be weight gain. That could be the ability to use a duck call. It could be salvation. You've got to give up something to get what you really want tomorrow. So discipline is huge. Tom Brady is a perfect example. Not too long ago, he was playing golf on some fundraiser with Tiger Woods and somebody else. And somebody saw him, and he's in the parking lot running sprints from one end of the parking lot to the other. And they said, this is like 9 months before the next possible Super Bowl. And it's right after the end of the season. And he said, Tom, what are you doing? He said, I'm trying to win a Super Bowl. That's discipline. And that's what you do when you build a company. And that's what you do if you want the most out of life. You have got to have discipline to follow through and to keep it going.
When we come back, we'll continue this special Thanksgiving edition of Super Talk Outdoors, brought to you by the Foundation, a really special organization. I'll talk more about them in just a second. But we'll continue the conversation on the other side. We'll see you after this break.
Sweet soul for him. I said 3 Mississippi to the walls and fall football. A Gulf Coast sunset and a deal.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have Will Primos, the one and only Will Primos, Mississippi's most important.
Like Kevin's the only one.
He's the most important outdoor ambassador we have, and thank you for joining us here on Super Talk Outdoors, brought to you by the Foundation. Hey, I had this great visit with Robert St. John. People may know him from Mississippi Public Broadcasting, Pallet to Pallet. They've had that show on MPB for a while, and they've he's written books, and he's just a kind of a Renaissance man, and he's a good friend. And he recently finished a documentary and a book on Walter Anderson's life. And I know you know who he is, and we'll come back to this in just a second. But I want to read to you something that Walter Anderson wrote, because he was not just a great artist, but he was a great writer, a great poet. And I think it's something that relates to what you think when you're turkey hunting, or maybe when you're in the woods. So here's what he wrote. And by the way, he wrote this after a years-long deep immersion into Horn Island, okay? And here's what he said. All movement is to invisible music. It comes from the sun and the wind and a running rabbit and a crowing cock. And together it is part of a great symphony. The longer we listen, the quieter we are, the more we hear. And when we do hear, we are part of the music instead of an unwelcome interruption. Will, is that powerful or what?
That's powerful. He did some soul searching to write that.
What I think of is when you get into the woods on a deer hunt, which people are going to be doing big time in this season, and you go in and you're just quiet, and then the woods start to wake up, and then the deer start to appear, and that is when you are now part of the music. You're now part. You're not the unwelcome interruption anymore that you are when you first appear into the forest. You're now part of nature. And, at that moment, it comes back to what we said a few minutes ago. You don't have to shoot to appreciate that moment. There's a poetic, almost like divineness to it, isn't there?
Oh, there is. I mean, and one of those moments when you're in the woods and the woods are coming back to life, and one of those pileated woodpeckers switches trees and screams, oh my gosh, it's just, his sound is so special. And within that and above that and below that, you're hearing bluebirds, little chickadees, crows, a deer walking. Oh, yeah. Your ears are important. By the way, protect them. especially when you shoot.
So, I had Chuck Cage on the show, and one of the things that we talked about was he was in an interview, and someone asked him, if you think of a smell really related to the outdoors, what smell comes to mind to you that elicits the most amount of memories? Is there a smell for you that you just immediately say, wow, that's the smell that brings back the most outdoor memories that I have? You have one like that?
To me, it's the dirt.
Yeah. You know what it was for me? Diesel fuel. You think, diesel fuel? Well, charter boats, being out on off the coast, sitting over a reef and catching red snapper. But the smell of that burning diesel fuel, it just, when I smell that today, I have such pleasant thoughts about it. But, you knew Walter Anderson. You knew about his immersion in
I didn't know him personally. He died before I was born. But no, being raised in D'Iberville on Back Bay, and then loving Horn Island and Deer Island, you'd go past Deer and then you head on toward Horn. It took us about 12 minutes to get to Horn from the bridge, where the railroad goes over from between Ocean Springs and Biloxi. And I'm just his stories, reading about him. We had a big, huge coffee table book in the house, and it was all about Walter Anderson. And I've got some of his prints. My middle name is Rivers, and I have one that's River by him.
Well, he used to go out. I think you mentioned something about an old skiff, but he used to literally turn his. He rode out there from Ocean Springs, turned his skiff over, and he slept there for days on end.
Yeah, and if I remember right, maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's laid up under the skiff and watched lightning strike the sandbar.
Yeah.
I think that's correct. And then he would dig up with the lightning would make the sand, the glass in the sand, solidify into a shape. I think that's right.
When Hurricane Betsy hit the coast, he rode out to Horn Island, tied himself to a tree so he could experience Hurricane Betsy. Think about that for a minute. Unbelievable.
Yeah, really.
So let's shift gears. You guys, this is kind of a busy time, but there's really, you've been busy now for months. What's your world look like these days?
Well, my world, I'm 69 years old, and Jimmy was my partner. We've sold Primos, and we're still work for the company. We still help promote. We still help produce a TV show, along with Troy Ruiz and Lake Pickle and Jordan. Of course, Brad is still a part of it. So we're traveling and hunting and taking a little bit of vacation time to be with family here at Thanksgiving. And then we're doing some personal things. Brad just bought a new place on the Big Black River, and he's managing the heck out of it. Oh my gosh. I texted you a picture earlier. On the 12th of November, he had longbeards coming by his camera, all strutting. So it's pretty cool. But I've been doing a lot of upland bird hunting. I love walking. I love being outside. I love being active. So I've been in South Dakota and Minnesota hunting upland birds. I've been hunting elk in New Mexico. I was there with the team, and we killed 4 elk there. And then I went to Arizona. I drew a unit 1, hunted 7 days, and never did get the big one up close that I wanted. But we had a beautiful trip. Lake Pickle was with me the whole time. When you spend 7 solid days with somebody, you really understand their character. And them. Lake is such a fine man. And we saw some beautiful country together. Oh my God.
Well, as you know, Lake and I have gotten to know each other well too. And he sends me a note while you're in Arizona. Y'all are sitting on the side of a mountain, I guess, glassing or whatever you were doing. And you were talking to him about the Conservation Trust Fund here in Mississippi. And he says, Will's teaching me what I need to know about that so I can talk about it on the podcast. But, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes,
but he is a good, I've really paid close attention to the Speak the Language podcast that he and Jordan are doing. And they're really finding their cadence with that. I think they're doing a great job with that program, don't you?
They are. They're very qualified to do it too. I mean, that's 2 hardcore hunters. Last year, when turkey season ended, they went on a huge swing all the way to Vermont, Maine, back around to Montana. Unbelievable. They went all on public land. had a blast.
So even now, they'll hunt one or two hunts, bow hunts in Mississippi, and then they'll head north. And I mean they just never stop, do they? They love what they're doing. They literally love what they're doing.
They love what they're doing,
and it comes across really well in what's happening. So how are things going at Kudzu Bluff these days?
I just got a big text a couple of days ago. They've got the new blind set up. We got a new piece of property leased next to what we own up there. And they're all excited because it's fixing to start happening.
Yeah, it's really, really that time of year. So I guess you'll be hunting. It's opening weekend. Now will be last weekend, and for gun season. But you're really still big time into the bow hunting, right?
Yeah, I'll be hunting with a bow no matter what, unless one of our sponsors wants me to do something with a gun. Savage is a sponsor. Gosh,
Yeah.
I never shot a Savage till we ended up being a sister company of theirs before we sold them. But oh my gosh, Savage, that's a fine gun.
Yeah, I've got
a fine rifle.
I've got a 270 Savage, and it's a really good gun. It's a very accurate shooting gun.
That trigger makes me more accurate.
Yeah. There's no doubt. My son Justin actually killed a 10-point with it last year, and it was just the perfect hunt with a really, really good gun. There's no doubt about that. Do you ever get to coastal Mississippi too often these days?
Do I ever get what now?
Down to coastal Mississippi.
I haven't been down and done any fishing in a couple of years. Life's just been too busy.
You'll have to come down and go fishing with us one afternoon.
I'm thinking about trying to find a time when I can get your friend Chris Gurris to put me on a triple tail.
Wow. Yeah. But he's got a really cool place over in the Big Bend area of Florida. And as you know, his dad was, God bless rest his soul, his dad was the triple, I think he's tagged more triple tail than anyone else. No one's even close, actually, in the entire Gulf of Mexico. That's how good of a fisherman his dad was. In fact, the last time I saw his father, he was showing me some really interesting flies that he had tied because he liked to catch triple tail with a fly rod. And Chris said that he's going to give me one of those flies. I can't wait to get it. I'm not going to use it.
I just met Chris's mama and his brother.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Special family. Hey, listen, when we come back, we'll be back for the final segment of this special edition, Thanksgiving edition of Super Talk Outdoors with Will Primos, and we'll see you after this break.
We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the outdoors. So let's talk about it. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors, a special Thanksgiving edition of Super Talk Outdoors. It's brought to you by the Foundation, officially known as the Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, not to be confused with the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. This is a foundation separate from the department that raises money on behalf of the department to help them fill gaps. And it's composed of volunteer leaders from across the state who are super dedicated to helping take conservation efforts for Mississippi to the next level. They're also involved in important issues that are important to you for outdoorsmen and outdoors women. And we're really pleased to be associated with them. And we're having a conversation with the one and only Will Primos. Will, I had the opportunity to have Toxie Hayes and Cuz Strickland on for an hour recently. Mossy Oaks, if you think about the role that Primos and Mossy Oaks has played in being sort of outdoors ambassadors together, these two Mississippi companies have been really important to the outdoor community in the United States, haven't they?
I believe that they have. And Toxie, he's a serial entrepreneur. He has done a fantastic job with great people in all aspects of the outdoors. I mean, he is up there in West Point. Oh my gosh. And he just keeps hitting and knocking it out of the park. And I'm going to tell you what, that first pattern that Bill Sugg, one of the executive VP of Mossy Oaks, brought to me and said, "What do you think of this?" That was in 1986, I think, or 85 or 86. Anyway, that's still my favorite pattern, and I think it's the best seller at Mossy Oak. Oh, Bottomland. It's the only way to go.
Yeah. Hey, when we visited before, we talked a lot about Cuz in those early days when Cuz toted the heavy equipment around, and you guys kind of felt your way through developing some significant TV footage from back in those days. Those, you had to be dedicated to do that back in those days, didn't you?
You really did. The deal was it was about the camera. It wasn't about you. And if it was about you and your ego, you were not going to be a long-term success. And I think you'll see that in a lot of what is on the outdoor TV stations. But it was about what we got on that camera that we could share with you and our own selves. We could watch it again. Because we didn't know what we were doing. We just said, we're going to go be ourselves and we're going to do it and we're going to have fun. And I'm going to tell you what, Cuz was the perfect master. Not only was he a good caller, he's a fantastic hunter, but he lived that hunt through that camera lens. And he started, it's kind of like the 10th Legion. 10th Legion, the book by Tom Kelly, named after the 10th Legion of the Roman Empire, that legion became great. And when nobody's living that ever started it, the new members want to keep it great because of the reputation. And that's what Cuz established. He established the platform for the truth. And it stayed great ever since. And it's because of Cuz's devotion that first year. Yeah,
the truth about hunting. I told you this, that on the TV that we play right back here in the back for the YouTube and Facebook audience who are watching this, we'll often have multiple shows going, but Primos, we watch it regularly. And what makes it so unique, and now that I've gotten to know you guys, is that you are no one but yourselves. It is so important for you. When you say at the beginning of the show that you don't stage hunts, you really mean it. You want it to be morally, ethically, and you want the authenticity to speak for itself. And that's really kind of been one of the keys to success for the TV show, hasn't it?
Yeah. We used to say this ain't Hollywood. And we used it so much, we ended up trademarking the name. This ain't Hollywood. And it's not. We're not actors by any means.
Although I tell you what, if you go to YouTube today, you think there are some hunters that think they are, and they're staging hunts, and it just doesn't feel right. Once you get a sense of the culture of what you created with Primo's Truth About Hunting, it's kind of hard to watch some of those other programs. I bet you feel the same way, don't you?
Oh yeah.
So listen, in the last few minutes we have left, this is the Conservation Trust Fund. It got through the House 117-2. It has some issues in the Senate. It's going to come back up again. But, and I'm really hoping that we find compromise and get where we need to be. But this is an opportunity for Mississippi to put about $15-20 million aside and then find matching funds that could turn it into $50, $60, $70, $80,000. I mean, $80 million, excuse me. We're one of only 2 states in the Southeast that don't have this trust fund. The other states have it. And since we didn't pass it last year, we've lost another year of getting matching funds. For example, the Farm Bill is over $7 billion that we could be going to get money from. And Farm Bill is, of course, private land. We got to get this done, don't we, Will? We do.
And I'm telling you, I forget what the exact figure is, but it's 80% plus of Mississippi's land is owned by private. Everything ends up downstream. So the conservation that you can affect on any piece of property ends up benefiting the public. And even it could be on public land that this is used. We could build bike trails. We could be shooting ranges, archery ranges, walking trails. And there's just so much that we can do if we can get this money allocated so we can grab those federal dollars.
The trust fund, the Conservation Trust Fund is so important to the state, and it will help outdoorsmen and women for many, many years to come. A generational bill. Pay attention. We'll talk more about it in the months that follow, in the weeks and months that follow. But for now, Will, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family and your team, and thank you for being my friend and the friend of Super Talk Outdoors. We really appreciate you, my buddy.
God bless you, and thank you, God, for blessing Mississippi.
You bet. You bet. Listen, stay safe. Stay safe. That's the most important thing. To come back and be able to have great memories and not bad memories. We'll see you next Monday.